Welcome to This is Thailand. I'm your host, and today's story is one that's going to hit hard for anyone who's ever thought about starting over in Southeast Asia, especially those of you looking for connection after life has knocked you down a few times. Today we're hearing from Colm, a 55-year-old electrician from Cork, Ireland, spent nearly 4 decades wiring up buildings, doing honest work, living a quiet life. Then retirement came, and with it a kind of loneliness he wasn't prepared for. Like a lot of men his age, he found himself with time and money, but nothing to fill either with. Thailand seemed like an answer. Warm weather, low cost of living, a chance to feel something again. What happened next changed everything. He thought he'd found something real, something different from all the cautionary tales he'd heard. He thought he was being careful, being smart. He had no idea what was coming. This one's going to stick with you. Here's his story, in his own words. My name's Colm. I'm from Cork, down in the south of Ireland, and I spent 37 years as an electrician. Started my apprenticeship at 17, worked my way up, eventually ran my own small crew doing commercial jobs mostly, shopping centers, office blocks, that sort of thing. Steady work. Good money. Nothing glamorous but honest. I was the sort of fella who showed up early, did the job right, never caused problems. The younger lads would come and go, always chasing better opportunities or moving to Dublin or London. I stayed. That was my identity, I suppose, reliable Colm. Steady as they come. I wired up half the buildings in Cork over those years, and I took pride in that. Every switch that worked, every light that came on when it was supposed to, that was me. That meant something. I married young, 24. Her name was Eileen. We had a daughter, Sarah, bought a small house in Ballincollig, lived a normal life. Eileen worked as a receptionist at a dental surgery. We weren't wealthy, but we were comfortable. Sunday dinners, the odd holiday to Spain, watching Sarah grow up, normal. Good. Then in 2015, Eileen started getting tired all the time, couldn't shake it, went to the doctor, tests, more tests, breast cancer, stage 3. The next 3 years were hospital appointments, chemotherapy, radiation, hope, setbacks, brief improvements, then worse news. I kept working because what else could I do? The bills didn't stop. Life didn't stop. I'd wire up a building during the day, then sit with her in the hospital at night and holding her hand while she slept, or tried to. She passed in October 2018. I remember sitting in our house the day after the funeral, and it was so quiet. The radiator's ticking was the only sound. Sarah had gone back to Dublin where she lived with her boyfriend, now her husband. She'd call every few days to check on me, but she had her own life. I understood that. That's how it should be. I kept working, didn't know what else to do. Got up at 5:30 every morning, made my tea, went to whatever job site needed me, came home to the empty house, made dinner, watched television, went to bed, repeat. The lads at work were kind enough, but what could they say? Everyone's awkward around grief. I retired in 2021 at 53. My knees were going, my back wasn't what it used to be, and I'd been in the trade long enough to qualify for my pension. Sold the house in Ballincollig for £165,000. Nothing fancy, small semi-detached, but it was paid off and the market was decent. Moved into a 1-bedroom flat closer to the city center. Figured I'd enjoy retirement, finally have time for myself. Except I didn't know what to do with myself. I'd spent 37 years defined by my work. Up early, job site, wire this, install that, fix the other thing, home again. Now I had all this time and no structure to put it in. I tried going to the pub with the lads from work, but once you're not working with them anymore, the conversation dries up. They'd talk about jobs, about the new contracts, about the young fella they'd just hired who didn't know a live wire from his elbow, and I'd just sit there with my pint, nothing to contribute. I tried walks along the Lee, tried reading more, even joined a group for hill walking that met Saturdays. Everyone was nice enough, but I couldn't shake this feeling that I was just filling time until I died. Sarah would ring every couple weeks, ask how I was, tell me about her job, about her husband, about their plans. I'd tell her I was grand, keeping busy. What else could I say? I wasn't her problem to fix. The flat was worse than the house had been. Smaller, no garden, just me and the ticking radiators. I'd sit there in the evenings and think about all those years of work, all those buildings I'd wired, all that time spent doing everything right, being reliable, being steady, and for what? An empty flat and a pension that covered my bills but couldn't fill the silence. I started thinking about Eileen more than I had in years, not the illness part, but before. When we were young and things seemed full of possibility, when Sarah was small and our house felt alive. I dulled everything around being useful, being needed for something, and now nobody needed me for anything. January 2022, I'm sat in the pub with Mick, a fella I'd worked with on and off for 20 years. He'd just come back from a month in Thailand with his wife. He's showing me photos on his phone, beaches, temples, street food, him grinning in a Hawaiian shirt with a beer. He's going on about how cheap everything is, how friendly everyone is, how the weather's gorgeous in winter when Ireland's freezing and gray. I wasn't really listening at first, just nodding along, being polite. But then he said something that stuck with me. He said, "Colm, you should go. Seriously, get out of here for a bit. You've got the money, you've got the time. What are you waiting for?" And I realized I didn't have an answer to that. I went home that night and looked up flights to Thailand. I'd never been to Asia, barely been outside Europe except for a few Spanish holidays years ago. But Mick was right. I had the money, I had the time, and what was I waiting for? To get older? To get sicker? To die in this flat without ever doing anything unexpected? I booked 2 weeks in Chiang Mai. I'd read it was quieter than Bangkok, more cultural, less of the seedier stuff you hear about. I wasn't looking for anything specific. Not women, not adventure, just something different. A break from the silence and the radiators in my own thoughts. I flew out mid-January, 12 hours to Bangkok, then another flight up to Chiang Mai. Stepped off the plane into heat like I'd never felt, thick, humid, smelling of something I couldn't quite place. Jasmine, maybe, or incense, mixed with exhaust fumes and food cooking somewhere. I had no idea my life was about to change completely. No idea at all. The first few days in Chiang Mai, I was overwhelmed, completely out of my depth. I booked a guest house near the old city through one of those travel websites. Modest place, clean enough, run by a Thai woman who spoke a bit of English. 200 baht a night, about 5 quid. The room was basic, but it had air conditioning, which I learned pretty quickly was non-negotiable. The heat wasn't just warm, it was thick, like walking through a wet blanket. Even at 8 in the morning, I'd be sweating through my shirt. The traffic was mental, motorbikes everywhere, weaving between cars, cutting across lanes, sometimes 3 or 4 people crammed on one bike. Whole families, dad driving, mom on the back holding a baby, toddlers squeezed in between, no helmets half the time. Made me nervous just watching. The smells hit you constantly. Grilled meat from street carts, sweet fruit, diesel exhaust, drains, incense from the temples. It was nothing like Cork. Nothing like anywhere I'd ever been. I spent the first couple days just wandering, trying to get my bearings. The old city's surrounded by a moat and old walls, temples every few hundred meters. Beautiful places, really. All gold and red and intricate carvings. I'd go in, take my shoes off like you're meant to, sit for a bit in the quiet, monks in orange robes walking past. It felt peaceful, even if I didn't really understand what I was looking at. But I was lonely, that's the truth of it. I'd sit at a restaurant, point at something on the menu because I couldn't read Thai, eat alone, go back to my room. I'd see other tourist backpackers mostly, young couples, groups of mates traveling together, and I felt completely out of place. A 55-year-old Irish bloke on his own, no clue what he was doing there. Fourth morning, I found a cafe called Morning Story on Nimon Hayman Road, Nimon, the locals call it. Trendy area, lots of cafes and little shops, younger crowd. The cafe was small, modern-looking, had proper coffee, which was a relief after days of instant stuff at the guest house. The owner was a young Thai fella with good English, and he made me a flat white that wasn't half bad. I started going there every morning around 8, same table by the window. I'd bring whatever book one was reading. John Grisham thriller the first to picked up at the airport, have my coffee, watch the city wake up. It became my routine. In a life without structure, you grab onto any bit of routine you can find. Fourth morning at that cafe, a Thai woman sat down at the table next to mine. She was dressed for work, pencil skirt, white blouse, reading glasses on a chain around her neck. Late 30s maybe, early 40s. Had her hair pulled back neat, was checking her phone, seemed like she was waiting for her coffee before heading to the office. She glanced over at my book, smiled a bit, then looked back at her phone. I went back to reading. Then she said, in pretty good English, "John Grisham? The First Love, his books. Which one is that?" I showed her the cover. The Pelican Brief. Told her I'd read it before but couldn't remember much of it, so figured I'd give it another go. She laughed. Nice laugh, genuine. Said she'd read it years ago, loved it, but yeah, couldn't remember the ending either. We chatted for maybe 20 minutes. Her name was Nim. She worked in logistics administration, whatever that meant exactly. She was friendly, easy to talk to, asked about Ireland, told me about Chiang Mai, what I should see while I was here, nothing flirtatious about it. Just 2 people having a chat over coffee. She finished her drink, said she had to get to work, told me to enjoy Chiang Mai. I figured that was that. Nice encounter, made me feel a bit less invisible. But the next morning, she was there again. Same time, same cafe. She saw me, smiled, came over and asked if she could join me. Of course I said yes. This became our routine. Most mornings that week, she'd stop by Morning Story on her way to work. We'd have coffee, talk for 20 minutes, half an hour. I learned she was divorced, no kids, lived with her mother and helped support her 2 younger sisters. She'd been married young to a Thai man who turned out to be abusive. Got out of that situation years ago, but it had left her a bit gun-shy about relationships, she said. I told her about Eileen, about the cancer, about retirement feeling like falling off a cliff into nothing. She listened properly, didn't just nod politely like most people do, actually listened, asked questions, seemed to genuinely care. By the end of that first week, she offered to show me around properly, said I was seeing the tourist version of Chiang Mai. She'd show me the real thing. We arranged to meet that Saturday. She'd pick me up on her motorbike. I'd never been on one before, wasn't sure I fancied it with the traffic being what it was, but she just laughed and told me to hold on. Drove me up to Doi Suthep Temple, up in the mountains overlooking the city. Gorgeous place. We climbed the steps, hundreds of them. Had me huffing and puffing, and at the top there's this golden temple that gleams in the sun. She explained the history of it, told me about the white elephant that carried Buddha's relics up there, showed me how to make merit by lighting incense. We walked around quietly. Up there above the city, you could see for miles. Green mountains, the city spread out below, and for the first time since Eileen died, I felt something other than empty. Afterwards, she took me to a local spot for lunch. Street food place, plastic stools and tables on the pavement. Ordered for both of us because I hadn't a clue what anything was. Brought me pad thai, sumtam, which is this spicy papaya salad that nearly blew my head off, and sticky rice with grilled pork. It was delicious, all of it. I tried to pay. She wouldn't let me, said it was Thai hospitality. I was her guest. When I insisted, she just smiled and said, "Next time you can pay." That's when I realized there would be a next time, that this wasn't just a one-off kindness to a lonely tourist. We started seeing each other almost daily. She'd message me in the mornings, we'd meet for coffee or lunch or dinner. She'd take me to the night markets, translate the menus at restaurants, teach me basic Thai phrases. Sawasdi krap for hello, kopkung krap for thank you. I sounded ridiculous saying them with my Cork accent, but she never made me feel stupid about it. She introduced me to her friends one evening, 3 women around her age, all chatty and warm, asking me about Ireland, laughing at my stories about the rain. They seemed like normal people. Normal lives, normal jobs. Not the bar girls you hear horror stories about. 2 weeks into my trip, I extended it to 3 weeks, couldn't bear the thought of leaving yet. Then 3 became 4. Sarah rang, asking when I was coming home. I told her soon, maybe another week or 2. She could hear something different in my voice, asked if I was all right. I said I was grand, better than grand, actually. By week 3, Nim and I were holding hands when we walked through the markets. By week 4, she was staying over at my guest house. Nothing rushed, nothing forced. It just happened naturally, like water finding its level. I hadn't felt this way since I was young, since before Eileen got sick, maybe even before that. Nim made me laugh. She listened to me ramble about electrical work and nodded like it was actually interesting. She'd touch my arm when we talked, lean into me on the motorbike, look at me like I mattered. I knew I'd have to go back to Ireland eventually. My visa was running out. I only had 30 days on arrival. But leaving felt impossible. I found something I thought was gone forever, not just companionship, but purpose. Someone who needed me, who wanted me around. One evening, sitting at a restaurant overlooking the Ping River, Nim said something that changed everything. She said, "Why you go back to Ireland? What is there for you?" And I couldn't answer that. My flat? The radiators? The silence? "You could stay here," she said. "We could see where this goes. Really see, not just 2 weeks holiday." I flew back to Cork in mid-February, told myself I needed to think, needed to sort out my affairs, needed to be sensible about this. But the whole flight back, all I could think about was her smile, her laugh, the way she'd made me feel alive again. The flat was exactly as I'd left it. Cold. Empty. Dot-ticking radiators. I lasted 3 weeks before I booked another flight back to Chiang Mai. For the next 3 months, March through May 22, I lived between 2 worlds. 2 weeks in Chiang Mai with Nim, then back to Cork for a couple weeks to keep up appearances, then back to Thailand again. It was mental, really. The flights alone were costing me a fortune. Return tickets. Cork to Chiang Mai with a connection in Bangkok ran about 700 quid each time. I must have done that trip 6 or 7 times. That's near £5,000 just on flights. Sarah knew something was up. She'd ring and I'd be in Thailand, trying to pretend I was in Cork. The time difference made it tricky. She'd call it tea time, her time, which was 11 at night in Chiang Mai, and I'd be sat in a restaurant with Nim, stepping outside to take the call, making excuses about why I sounded distracted. Eventually, I just told her. Said I'd met someone, a Thai woman, we were seeing where it went. She went quiet for a bit, then asked all the sensible questions. How long had I known her? What did she do for work? Was I being careful with my money? I told her everything was grand. Nim had a proper job, wasn't after my money, wasn't some bar girl. I could hear the doubt in Sarah's voice, but she didn't push it. Just said to be careful, to not do anything stupid. I promised I wouldn't. But I was already in deep. That's the thing about loneliness. When you finally find something that fills it, you'll do anything to keep it. Each time I went back to Chiang Mai, Nim would meet me at the airport. She'd be stood there in the arrivals hall with this huge smile, and every time it felt like coming home, more than Cork ever did. We'd go back to my guest house, spend a few days just being together. Then she'd have to work and I'd wander the city on my own, counting hours until she was finished. I met her family properly in April. Her mother, Kun Mei, lived in a small house about 20 minutes outside the city. Two-story concrete place, bit run down but clean. Nim's two younger sisters were there, Ploy, who was 35 with a 7-year-old daughter, and Krate, who was 32. Ploy's husband had left her a few years back, so she and her daughter lived with Mei. Krate worked at a hotel in the city. They cooked for me. Proper Thai feast, green curry, fried fish, morning glory with garlic, sticky rice, papaya salad. Mei didn't speak a word of English, but she kept piling food on my plate, smiling and nodding. Nim translated everything. The sisters asked me about Ireland, about my family, about what I thought of Thailand. Ploy's daughter, little thing named Fern, sat on my lap and played with my phone. It felt like being part of something again, being welcomed into a family. Looking back now, I can see how perfect it all was. Too perfect, maybe. But at the time, I just felt grateful. Mei had health problems, Nim mentioned. Diabetes, high blood pressure. The medication was expensive. The sisters both helped out financially when they could, but money was tight. I didn't offer anything then, but I filed it away. These were good people, struggling like everyone struggles, and if I could help, why wouldn't I? End of May, Nim and I were sat at a cafe in Nim and Not Morning Story, somewhere else, fancier place, and she brought up what I'd been thinking about for weeks. She said, "This flying back and forward is expensive, yes, and tiring for you." I agreed it was. "Your flat in Cork," she said. "You're paying rent there and staying in hotel here is like paying 2 times for one person." She was right. Between the flights, the guest house, my flat in Cork, I was hemorrhaging money for no good reason. "What if you just stay here?" she asked. "Properly stay. We can find you a nice apartment. I can help you. We can really be together, see if this is real thing." I told her I'd need a proper visa. Tourist visa only got you 30 days, and I couldn't keep doing visa runs to Cambodia every month. She said that was fine. We'd sort it. Maybe eventually I could get a retirement visa if I wanted to stay long-term. You needed to be 50 and have 800,000 baht in a Thai bank account, which was about 20,000 euro. I had more than that. It was doable. The practical part of my brain, the electrician who'd spent 37 years measuring circuits and calculating loads, knew this was moving fast. Too fast, maybe. But the other part of me, the part that had been hollow since Eileen died, didn't care about fast or slow. It cared about not being empty anymore. I flew back to Cork in early June, gave notice on my flat, told the landlord I was moving abroad, Thailand, to be with someone. He didn't ask questions, just wanted to know when I'd be out. I said, end of the month. I packed up my life into 3 suitcases and 4 boxes. Amazing how little you accumulate when you've spent years just existing. Some clothes, some books, a few photos of Eileen and Sarah. The rest I donated or binned. Sarah came down from Dublin to help. She was worried, I could tell, but trying to be supportive. "Dad," she said, "just promise me you're being smart about this, about your money." I promised her I was. Told her I wasn't some idiot who'd hand over his life savings to someone he barely knew, and I believed that. I genuinely thought I was being careful, being sensible. I left Cork on June 28, 2022. One-way ticket this time. Nim picked me up at the airport with that smile that made everything else fade away. She'd found me a condo in Nimmen, modern building, 8th floor, 1 bedroom, fully furnished. 25,000 baht a month, which worked out to about 700 euro. Had a decent kitchen, good aircon, nice bathroom, balcony overlooking the street. The building had a small gym and a pool. It felt like luxury after my flat in Cork. I signed a year lease. Paid 3 months up front as deposit plus first month's rent, 100,000 baht total, about 2,800 euro. First big financial commitment to this new life. Nim helped me settle in. Took me to get a Thai SIM card for my phone, showed me where the local markets were, the good restaurants, the 7-Eleven that was open 24 hours. She'd stay over most nights, but kept her room at her mother's house. Said it was proper, respectable. Thai ladies don't just move in with a man they're not married to, she explained. I respected that. It felt traditional, serious. Those first few weeks in my own place in Chiang Mai were brilliant. I'd wake up, make coffee, sit on the balcony watching the city, no radiators ticking, no silence crushing me. Nim would come over after work, we'd cook together or go out for dinner, walk through the night markets holding hands. We'd talk about the future, about maybe opening a small business together someday, about what our life could look like. I felt useful again, needed, happy. I should have known it wouldn't last. Nothing that easy ever does. But for those first few weeks, I let myself believe I'd found what I'd been missing. That at 55, retired, alone, I'd somehow stumbled into a second chance at happiness. I told myself I was being smart. I had my own place, my own money, my own life. I wasn't dependent on her, she wasn't dependent on me. We were just two people who'd found each other. That's what I told myself. September 2022, about 3 months after I'd moved to Chiang Mai permanently, Nim came to my condo looking upset. I'd just made dinner, some rice and a chicken stir-fry I'd learned to make from watching her cook. She barely touched it. "What's wrong?" I asked. She was quiet for a bit, then said her mother had been having chest pains. She'd gone to the hospital that morning for tests. The doctor said it was serious heart condition, needed medication and monitoring, maybe surgery down the line if it got worse. I asked how much the treatment cost. Nim showed me the hospital paperwork, all in Thai, but I could see the numbers. 180,000 baht, about 4,800 euro. She explained it as best she could: tests, medications, specialist consultations. It looked official, hospital stamps, doctor's signatures, that whole thing. She was embarrassed to even bring it up, I could tell. Kept saying her sisters were trying to scrape together what they could, but between Ploy's daughter's school fees and Krate's own bills, they didn't have enough. May needed the treatment soon. The doctor had been clear about that. "I'm so sorry to tell you this problem," Nim said, "is not your responsibility, but I don't know what to do. Here's the thing. When your wife dies of cancer, when you've sat in hospital rooms watching someone you love waste away because treatment stopped working, you develop a certain perspective on medical emergencies. If May needed treatment and money was the only thing standing in the way, what kind of person would I be if I could help and didn't? Family takes care of family. That's what Nim had told me before. In Ireland, we understood that too. When my own mother had needed help in her final years, I paid for private care without thinking twice about it. I transferred the money the next day. 180,000 baht from my Thai bank account. Didn't even hesitate. Nim cried when I told her. Proper crying, tears running down her face. She hugged me tight and said I was the most generous man she'd ever known. Said her mother would be so grateful that the whole family would remember this kindness forever. May got her treatment. Nim brought me to visit her a week later. May was sat up in bed at home, looking better than she had, smiled when she saw me, took my hand and held it while she said something in Thai. Nim translated. She was thanking me for saving her life, for being part of their family, for being a good man. I felt like a hero. Stupid as that sounds, I did. I'd helped someone, made a real difference. After years of feeling useless, of just existing, I'd actually mattered to someone. Looking back now, I should have asked more questions. Should have asked to see the actual medical records, not just the bill. Should have wondered why a heart condition that serious only required one payment and then everything was fine. Should have noticed that May seemed perfectly healthy before and after this supposed emergency. But I didn't ask any of that. I just felt good about helping. October brought another request. Smaller, this time. Ploy's daughter Fern needed new school supplies and uniform for the term. 15,000 baht. About 400 euro. Nim was apologetic about even mentioning it, said normally the family would manage. But with May's medication costs still ongoing, money was tight. I paid it. Why wouldn't I? It was a kid's education. 15,000 baht was nothing to me, meant everything to them. November, Krata's motorbike broke down. She needed it to get to work at the hotel. 22,000 baht for repairs. About 580 euro. Again, Nim was embarrassed to ask. Again, I paid without hesitation. Each time the gratitude from the family was overwhelming. They'd thank me, tell me I was part of the family now, practically a Thai son. May would cook special meals for me. The sisters would bring me little gifts, nothing expensive, just tokens. A keychain with a Buddha, a shirt from the market, a box of mango sticky rice. I kept track in my head. By the end of November, I'd given the family about 220,000 baht total, roughly 5,800 euro. Not insignificant, but not devastating either. I still had most of my savings intact. And it felt good, being needed, being the one people came to when they had problems. Early December, Nim brought up something bigger. We were lying in bed in my condo, aircon humming, rain hammering against the windows. Proper monsoon rain, the kind that floods the streets. She was tracing circles on my chest with her finger, that way she did when she was thinking about something. "I have idea," she said, "but his big idea. Maybe you think is crazy." I told her to tell me anyway. She said we should buy land together, build a proper house. Something that was ours, not a rented condo where we couldn't even paint the walls or have a dog. Somewhere outside the city, quiet, with a garden. A real home where we could settle, maybe get married eventually, build a life. I'd been thinking about marriage myself. We'd been together nearly a year at that point. She was 40, I was 55. Neither of us was getting younger. Why wait? But the land idea, that gave me pause. I knew the law. Foreigners can't own land in Thailand. I'd read about it when I was researching retirement visas. You can own a condo as long as the building is no more than 49% foreign-owned. But land? No. That has to be in a Thai name. Nim knew this too. She explained it simply. The land would go in her name, legally. But we'd be getting married soon anyway, so it would be our land. Our house. Our future. Lots of Farang did it this way, she said. Her friend knew an English man who'd built a beautiful house for him and his Thai wife. Worked out perfectly. She had it all planned. Her cousin knew someone selling land cheap outside Chiang Mai. Beautiful area, near the mountains, quiet, good neighbors. 1.2 million baht for the plot. That's about 32,000 euro. In Ireland, you couldn't buy a garden shed for that. Here, you could buy land big enough for a house and garden. We can build small house, she said. Nothing fancy. Just nice place for us. My brother-in-law Somchai, he is builder. He give us family price, very cheap. We can have our own home. I'd never heard about this brother-in-law before. Turned out he was married to May's sister, technically Nim's uncle by marriage, but everyone just called him brother-in-law. He did construction work, had his own small crew. The practical part of my brain was screaming warnings. Putting a huge chunk of money into land I couldn't legally own. That would be in someone else's name, someone I'd known less than a year. That was foolish. That was how you lost everything. But the other part of my brain, the lonely part, the part that had felt dead for so long, said something different. It said, she introduced you to her whole family. You've been to May's house dozens of times. Her sisters treat you like family. Little Fern calls you uncle. This isn't some bar girl scam. This is a real woman with a real family and a real life, and she wants to build a future with you. And the practical part of my brain had another thought too. If we were getting married anyway, it didn't matter whose name was on the land. Married couples shared everything. That's how it worked. Let me think about it, I told Nim. She kissed me and said, of course, take your time. It's a big decision. I thought about it for 3 days. I even rang Sarah back in Dublin, told her I was thinking about buying land and building a house. Dad, she said, and I could hear the worry in her voice. Whose name would it be in? I explained the law. Explained that Nim and I would be getting married, that this was our future together. Sarah was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, just be careful, yeah? Make sure everything's legal and proper. Get a lawyer to look at the documents. I promised her I would, but I didn't. You want to know why? Because getting a lawyer felt like I didn't trust Nim. Felt like I was insulting her, implying she was trying to scam me, and I couldn't do that. Not to her, not when she'd been nothing but good to me. Mid-December, I transferred 1.2 million baht to Nim's account for the land purchase. 32,000 euro. The biggest single expense of this whole thing so far. Nim took me to see the land 2 days later. It was beautiful. About 40 minutes outside Chiang Mai, near a small village, mountains in the distance. The plot was maybe half an acre, flat, with some trees at the edges. You could hear birds, smell the clean air. It was exactly what she'd promised. We stood there together, her hand in mine, and she painted a picture of what it could be. Small house, 2 bedrooms, big windows to let in light. Garden with vegetables and maybe some fruit trees. A porch where we could sit in the evenings. Our home. I let myself believe it. I wanted to believe it. January 2023, construction began. Somchai came by my condo to discuss plans. He was a short, stocky Thai man in his 50s, spoke almost no English, not Nim translated. He showed me sketches of the house, basic but nice. Explained what materials he'd need, what it would cost. 800,000 baht for materials, foundation, basic construction. Another 21,000 euro. He'd need it up front to buy the materials and pay his crew. I transferred it. I was in deep now. Might as well see it through. Total spent by mid-January, 2 million baht. About 53,000 euro. I still had roughly 112,000 euro left of my original savings. Still comfortable, but the number was dropping faster than I'd planned. I went to visit the site in late January. Foundation was poured. Materials were there, bricks, bags of cement, steel rebar, timber. Workers were there, Somchai directing them. It looked legitimate. It looked like my house being built. I felt proud. I was building something, creating something. After a life of wiring other people's buildings, I was finally making something that was mine. That feeling didn't last long. February 2023, Somchai came back asking for more money. Nim showed up at my condo one evening with him in tow, both of them looking serious. Somchai spoke rabid Thai while Nim translated. There was rock in the foundation they hadn't expected. Don needed special equipment to break it up and remove it. The regular excavator wasn't strong enough. Had to bring in a bigger machine, cost more. 150,000 baht. About 4,000 euro. I asked to see the site. We went the next day. There was definitely rock there, jagged gray stone poking up through the dirt where they'd been digging. The workers were stood around looking frustrated. Somchai pointed at it, shook his head, said something to Nim. I transferred the money. What choice did I have? The house was already half started. Couldn't just leave it with a hole in the ground. March brought another request. Building materials had gone up in price, Somchai said. Lumber especially. Thailand was experiencing shortages. The supplier wanted payment up front for the next delivery or they'd sell to someone else. 180,000 baht. Another 4,800 euro. Nim showed me receipts, invoices with Thai script and company stamps. I couldn't read them properly, but they looked official enough. I was starting to feel uneasy, though. The costs kept climbing. Every time I visited the site, progress seemed slow. Foundation was done, yes. Some framing was up. But it didn't look like 3 million baht worth of work to me. I'd spent 37 years in construction-adjacent work. I knew what things should cost, how fast work should progress. This wasn't right. But what could I say? I didn't speak Thai, didn't know local costs, didn't know how construction worked here. Maybe it was different. Maybe I was just being paranoid. By the end of March, I'd put in nearly 3.3 million baht, about 87,000 euro, more than half my savings gone. I was down to roughly 78,000 euro left. That's when things started changing with Nim. April 2023, she became distant, stayed at her mother's house more often, came to my condo less. When she did come over, she was distracted, always on her phone. I'd ask what was wrong, she'd say nothing, just tired from work. Except I'd started noticing she wasn't going to work as regularly as she used to. She'd told me she worked 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. But I'd see her during the day sometimes, at the market or a cafe, when she should have been at the office. One evening I asked her directly about her job. What exactly did she do in logistics administration? Where was her office? She got defensive, said I was questioning her. Didn't I trust her? I backed off, apologized. But the seed of doubt was planted. The construction site was the same story. I visit weekly now, trying to track progress. Some weeks there'd be workers there, some weeks nobody. The house was coming together, but painfully slowly. Walls were up, roof was started, but it looked rough, unfinished. Not like the neat construction sites I remembered from Cork. Mid-April, I drove out to the site, unannounced, no workers, no Somchai. Just the half-finished shell of a house and scattered materials. I walked around it, getting more frustrated by the minute. Where was everyone? Where was all my money going? I rang Nim. She said Somchai's crew was working another job for a few days. They'd be back next week. I asked why I wasn't told. She got short with me, said I was being controlling. Did I want to build the house or not? That evening, she left her phone on my coffee table while she went to shower. I know what you're thinking. I know it was wrong, but I looked. A message popped up on the screen, Line app, from someone named T, in Thai, but I could see a heart emoji. I opened Google Translate on my own phone, took a photo of her screen. The message said something like, "Missing you, when is Farang gone?" My hands were shaking. I scrolled up through their conversation. Lots of messages, hearts and kiss emojis. Photos of them together. Him on his motorbike, her sitting behind him, both smiling. Recent photos, within the last few weeks. I heard the shower turn off. I put her phone back exactly where it was, sat on the couch, tried to look normal. But my heart was pounding. She came out, got her phone, didn't notice anything wrong. I didn't say anything, not then. I needed to think. That night, after she fell asleep, I lay there staring at the ceiling. Who was T? How long had this been going on? Was everything a lie? Next morning, after she left for work, I did something I'd never done before. I followed her. She drove her motorbike from my condo toward May's house, but didn't go there. Instead, she went to a different house, smaller place in a rougher neighborhood. A young Thai man came out tall, fit, maybe late 20s. He kissed her, not a friendly peck, a proper kiss. I felt sick, physically sick. Pulled over, thought I was going to vomit. I drove back to my condo, sat on the balcony, tried to process what I'd seen. That evening, Nim came over like normal, acting like everything was fine. I couldn't hold it in. "Who's T?" I asked. She froze. "What?" "I saw the messages on your phone. I saw you with him this morning." She went from shock to anger in seconds. Started yelling at me in a mix of Thai and English. How dare I look at her phone? How dare I follow her? I was crazy, paranoid, controlling. I stayed calm, asked her to explain the messages, explain the kiss. She switched tactics, started crying, said T was just a friend, an old friend. The messages were jokes. Thai people talk like that. The kiss was just hello. I didn't understand Thai culture. I was reading things wrong, making problems out of nothing. I wanted to believe her. God, I wanted to believe her. But I'd seen what I'd seen. We fought for hours. She finally left around midnight, angry, crying, slamming the door. I didn't hear from her for 3 days. When she finally messaged, it was short. "We need talk about house. Somchai need payment. Not, I'm sorry. Not, let me explain. Just pay more money." I went to visit the construction site again. Still nobody there. Hadn't been anyone there in days, I could tell. No fresh footprints in the dust. No new progress. I'd been an electrician for 37 years. I knew what an abandoned job site looked like. That's when I decided I needed help, professional help. I found an expat legal service in Chiang Mai, small office near the old city, run by a British woman named Margaret who'd been in Thailand 20 years. She did visa help, legal consultations, translation services. I brought her all the documents Nim had given me, the land papers, the construction contracts, everything. She looked them over with a Thai assistant who translated the documents properly. Her face said everything before her words did. "Mr. Murphy," she said quietly, "we need to talk about your situation." The land was registered in May's name, not Nim's, May's. There was no usufruct agreement, no lease, nothing that gave me any legal claim to the property. As far as Thai law was concerned, I had no connection to that land whatsoever. The construction contracts were all in Somchai's name. If I wanted to pursue him for shoddy work or failure to complete, I'd have to prove I'd paid him. Did I have receipts? Bank transfers? I had bank transfers to Nim, not to Somchai, not to any construction company, to Nim's personal account. "That's going to be a problem," Margaret said. She asked about Nim's job. I told her logistics administration. Margaret asked for the company name. I realized I didn't know it. I'd never asked, never thought to ask. Her assistant did some digging online while we waited. There was no record of anyone named Nim working for any logistics companies in Chiang Mai. Not at any of the major ones, anyway. "The cousin who sold you the land," Margaret said. "Do you have his contact information?" I didn't. Nim had handled everything. Margaret's assistant looked up the land registration details. The previous owner was listed. A Thai man named Thirasak. "Do you know him?" Margaret asked. I didn't. She asked if I had photos of Nim, her family, anything that might help identify people. I showed her photos on my phone. Her assistant looked at the photo of Nim and Thirasak from the land office records. "This man," she said, pointing to a photo on my phone from months ago. Nim at a family gathering. There was a man in the background. Same man. This is Thirasak. It was the cousin, the one who'd supposedly sold us the land cheap as a favor. "When was this photo taken?" Margaret asked. I checked the date, April last year, early in our relationship. "They look close," the assistant said carefully. They did. In the photo, Nim had her hand on his arm. They were laughing. "I think Thirasak might not be her cousin," Margaret said. "Or at least, not only her cousin." The room was spinning. I understood what she was saying. Margaret laid it out gently but clearly. The land purchase looked like a scam. Money went from me to Nim to her family, possibly with some going back to Thirasak. Somcha had likely done minimal work, taken a cut, disappeared. The hospital bills, the school fees, the motorbike impossible to verify without records, but given everything else, probably exaggerated or fabricated. "How much have you given her total?" Margaret asked. I did the math in my head. Land, construction, hospital, school, motorbike, plus all the dinners I'd paid for, the gifts, the daily expenses I'd covered for nearly a year. "About 3 million baht," I said. "Maybe a bit more." 78,000 euro, roughly. Margaret nodded sympathetically. "And how much do you have left?" "About 72,000 euro. "Mr. Murphy," she said, "I need you to hear this clearly. You're not getting that money back, any of it. The land isn't yours, the house isn't yours, and even if you could prove fraud, Thai courts are very difficult for foreigners, very expensive, and very slow. You could spend years and tens of thousands more pursuing this, and you likely wouldn't recover anything." I sat there in her office, the aircon humming, traffic noise from outside, and felt everything collapse. 37 years of working, of being reliable, of doing everything right. 3 years of watching my wife die. 4 years of loneliness so profound I'd fled to the other side of the world to escape it, and I'd given it all away to someone who'd never loved me, who'd seen a lonely old man with money and played the long game perfectly. "What should I do?" I asked Margaret. She looked at me with genuine kindness. "Go home," she said, "before you lose the rest." I wasn't ready to accept that, not yet. I needed to confront Nim properly, get the truth out of her, face to face. I rang her mobile. It went straight to voicemail. Tried again an hour later. Same thing. Sent her messages on line.read but no reply. 2 days of this. Then I drove out to May's house. It was a Sunday afternoon, figured the whole family would be there. The house was quiet when I arrived. May was in the garden hanging washing. She saw me, and her face changed, not the warm smile I was used to. Something else. Fear, maybe. Or guilt. I asked for Nim. May shook her head, said something in Thai I couldn't understand, went inside and closed the door, just like that. After all those family dinners, all those times she'd held my hand and called me a good man, she shut the door in my face. I stood there in the heat, sweat running down my back, feeling like a fool. I tried ploy next, rang her mobile. She answered but said she couldn't talk. Nim wasn't there. She didn't know where she was. Then she hung up. Krate's number went to a message saying it was disconnected. They'd circled the wagons. I was out. I went back to my condo and did something I should have done months ago. I went through my bank statements properly. Every transfer, every withdrawal, every expense since I'd arrived in Thailand. The number was worse than I'd thought. Flights, condo rent, the land, the construction, the family emergencies, all the dinners and gifts and daily expenses I covered, 3.2 million baht. About 84,000 euro total. I had 68,000 left. Less than half of what I'd retired with. That evening, sitting on my balcony watching the sun go down over Chiang Mai, my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number, in English. Nim say tell you, house is finished for you. Land belong to family. You need go back Ireland now. If you make problem for family, we make problem for you. Understand? No signature, no name, just a threat. I screenshot it, forwarded it to Margaret at the legal service. She rang me within an hour. Mr. Murphy, this is serious. You need to consider leaving Thailand soon. I told her I wanted to go to the police, report the fraud, do something. She sighed. I understand. But the Thai police aren't going to help you. You gave money to your girlfriend voluntarily. You put land in her family's name voluntarily. You have no contracts, no legal protection, nothing that proves fraud rather than just poor judgment. And that threat message, that's a warning. These people know where you live. So I just leave? Let them win? You cut your losses and go home with what you have left, she said. I've seen this before, Mr. Murphy. I've seen men like you lose everything, and sometimes worse. Be grateful you still have something left to go home to. I couldn't sleep that night. Just lay there in the dark, aircon humming, replaying everything in my head. Every moment with Nim. Every red flag I'd ignored. Every warning sign I'd rationalized away. The cafe meeting that felt so natural. Too natural, maybe. Like she'd been watching for someone like me. Lonely Farang, living alone, looking lost. The family introduction, the perfect performance of warmth and welcome. May's health crisis timed just right, once I was emotionally invested. The land deal, the construction delays, the escalating costs. All of it choreographed, practiced, perfected. I thought I was being careful. Thought I'd avoided the bar girl trap by finding a good girl, with a real job and a real family. But the trap was more sophisticated than that. They played a longer game, built more elaborate illusions. And I'd fallen for all of it because I was lonely and desperate and wanted so badly to believe that life still had something good left for me. Next morning, I packed not everything, just enough for a week or two. I booked a flight to Cork, departing in 3 days. One-way ticket. Cost me 1,200 euro, all I could get on short notice. I went to the condo office, told them I needed to break my lease. They said I'd forfeit my deposit, 3 months rent, 75,000 baht, about 2,000 euro. I didn't even argue, just signed the paperwork. I drove out to the construction site one last time. The house shell stood there, half finished, already starting to look abandoned. Weeds growing around the foundation, rain stains on the concrete. My dream home, rotting before it was ever complete. I took photos, don't know why. Evidence maybe. Or just to remember my own stupidity. On my way back to the city, I stopped at May's house one more time. I wasn't going to confront anyone. I just wanted to see if they were even there, if any of this was real. The house was empty. Completely empty. No furniture through the windows, no washing in the garden, no motorbikes parked outside. Like they'd packed up and gone. I asked a neighbor, an old Thai man working in his garden next door. Used Google Translate on my phone. Asked where the family went. He looked confused. Said in broken English, no family there, lady-owned house, she rent to many people. They come, they go, new people next week maybe. May didn't own that house, she'd been renting it. Probably specifically for this, for me. I drove back to my condo, sat on the balcony, tried to process it all. They were professionals. This wasn't Nim's first time, probably not the family's first time either. They'd done this before, would do it again. Some other lonely Farang would sit in that cafe, meet a charming Thai woman, feel special for the first time in years, and hand over his savings bit by bit until there was nothing left. The realization didn't make me feel better, made it worse actually. I wasn't even special in my own tragedy. I was a type. A mark predictable as clockwork. 2 days before my flight, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. It was Nim. Colm, she said, her voice soft, sad. I hear you leaving Thailand. I didn't say anything. Couldn't trust my voice. I want you know, she continued. I did care about you. Was not all lie. You are a good man. I'm sorry. I found my voice then. You sorry? You took everything from me. You have money still, she said. You have pension. You go back Ireland. You be okay. Some Farang, they lose everything. House, pension, passport. We not do that to you. You still have life. The casual cruelty of it. Like I should be grateful they hadn't completely destroyed me. The house, I said. What happens to it? Some chai finish it. We sell it, maybe. Or T and me live there. She said it matter-of-factly, no shame. How long? I asked. How long were you planning this? She was quiet for a moment. Then, from beginning, I see you in cafe, I know. Lonely farang, sad eyes, good money, is what I do, is how I live. And I'll never forget what she said next. You want blame someone, blame yourself. You come Thailand looking for something cheap. Cheap life, cheap girlfriend, cheap happiness. You find it, just cost more than you think. She hung up. I sat there holding the phone, shaking. Because she was right, not about all of it, but about enough of it. I'd come here looking for something cheap, an easy escape from my grief and loneliness. A simple solution to a complicated problem. And I'd been willing to ignore warning signs and skip due diligence because checking up on her felt like it would ruin the fantasy. I'd wanted so badly to be loved, to be needed, to matter to someone, that I'd let myself be blind. The next day, I finished packing, gave away most of my stuff to other expats in the building, drew away what I couldn't give away, reduced my whole Thailand life down to 2 suitcases. Margaret met me for coffee before my flight, wanted to make sure I was okay, that I had a plan. I told her I'd stay with Sarah in Dublin for a bit while I sorted a new flat in Cork, start over. Again, will you report any of this? She asked. To the authorities back home. Help others avoid the same thing. I shook my head. What would I say? I gave money to someone I wasn't married to for land I couldn't legally own, without any contracts or legal protection. I'd sound like an idiot. Because I was an idiot. She touched my hand. You weren't an idiot. You were lonely. There's a difference. Maybe. But the result was the same. I flew out of Chiang Mai on June 14, 2023, 18 months after I'd first arrived, full of hope. I had €62,000 left after flights and breaking the lease. Bit more than a third of what I'd started with. The flight back felt longer than the flight out. Had too much time to think. About Eileen. About what she'd think of all this. About how I'd squandered the life we'd built together on a fantasy that was never real. About how I'd spent 37 years being reliable, being steady, being smart, and then thrown it all away in 18 months of being desperate and stupid. Sarah picked me up at Dublin Airport, took one look at me and just hugged me. Didn't ask questions, didn't say I told you so, just took me home. That was 2 years ago now, July 2025 as I'm telling you this. I'm back in Cork, got a small flat, smaller than the one I had before. I pick up electrical work here and there, cash in hand stuff mostly, help supplement the pension. The money I have left, I'm careful with it. No investments, no risks, no dreams. Just living small and quiet. I don't date. Can't imagine trusting anyone again like that. Can't imagine being that vulnerable. Sometimes I see a Thai restaurant or a travel agency with posters of Thai beaches, and I feel it. That pull. That memory of warmth and possibility. Then I remember the price, and the feeling passes. People ask if I'm angry at Nim. At the family. At Thailand. I'm not, really. I'm angry at myself. For being so desperate for connection that I ignored every warning. For confusing loneliness with love. For thinking trust and due diligence were the same thing when they're not. Trust is what you feel. Due diligence is what you do. I felt plenty. Did nothing. And that's the lesson, isn't it? That's what I'm telling you now, whoever's listening to this. Loneliness makes you vulnerable. Makes you see what you want to see, instead of what's actually there. Makes you ignore red flags because acknowledging them would mean going back to being alone, and being alone feels worse than being scammed. But being scammed is worse. Because you don't just lose money, you lose the ability to hope, to believe life can still surprise you with something good. That's what I lost in Thailand, not just €84,000. I lost the belief that at 55, retired, alone, I could still find happiness, still matter to someone, still build something that meant something. I had that belief when I landed in Chiang Mai in January 2022. I don't have it anymore. And that, more than the money, is what I'll never get back. So if you're watching this, if you're thinking about Thailand or Vietnam or Philippines or anywhere else, if you're lonely and looking for a fresh start with someone who makes you feel special again, just remember my story. Do your due diligence. Get proper contracts. Keep legal protections. Don't put anything in anyone else's name. Don't skip lawyers because it feels like distrust. It's not distrust. It's wisdom. And if someone's story seems too perfect, if the family welcomes you too warmly, if the emergencies pile up too conveniently, trust your gut, not your loneliness. Your gut. Because loneliness lies. It tells you what you want to hear. And if you listen to it long enough, you'll wake up one day having given everything away to someone who was never really there. That's my story. That's what happened to me. I hope to God it doesn't happen to you. That was Colm's story, and I want to thank him for sharing it with such honesty. It takes courage to admit mistakes this costly, and his willingness to do so might save someone else from the same fate. The tragedy here isn't just the money lost. It's how a well-planned scam can perfectly mimic a genuine relationship. Nim knew exactly what she was doing. Finding lonely men in cafes, building trust slowly, introducing family for legitimacy, timing financial requests carefully, and keeping the fantasy alive just long enough to extract maximum value. The hard truth is that scams like this work because they exploit our deepest human needs. The need to be loved, to be useful, to matter to someone. When you're lonely and someone fills that void, it's almost impossible to see clearly. But Colm's right about the lesson. Trust is an emotion. Due diligence is a practice. You need both, but you can't substitute one for the other. Verify everything. Get proper legal advice. Never put property in someone else's name without ironclad legal protections. And if something feels wrong, it probably is, even if acknowledging it means returning to loneliness. Thailand is a beautiful country with wonderful people. But like anywhere, it has people who see vulnerable foreigners as opportunities. The best defense is knowledge, preparation, and the courage to protect yourself even when it feels unromantic. If you're considering a similar move, learn from Colm. Don't let loneliness make your decisions for you. Thanks for watching. This is Thailand. Stay safe out there. I appreciate you sharing these detailed instructions and the complete story structure. However, I noticed that Chapter 7 has already been written in full in the document you provided. It's the final section that includes both Colm's concluding reflection and the host's outro. The Chapter 7 you've shown me already covers Colm's final wisdom about trust versus cess, due diligence. His reflection on what he truly lost, hope, not just money, his direct address to viewers with warnings, the smooth transition back to the host voice, the host's contextual closing remarks. The sign-off for this is Thailand. This chapter is already complete at approximately 1,285 words and follows all the guidelines you've outlined. Did successfully, maintains Colm's Irish voice throughout his portions, transitions cleanly to the host voice, delivers the core lesson without being preachy, provides protective warnings to viewers, ends with the proper "This is Thailand" sign-off. Is there something specific you'd like me to revise or XPX? And in this chapter, or were you looking for me to write a different chapter?